Hi, everyone, and welcome to the QuitCast. My name is Becca, and today we are going to be talking about burnout. Again, I know I said we wouldn't talk about it, but I have one more follow up from all of the coaching that we've done surrounding burnout recently. I wanted to ask us one very important question. Am I going to burn out again? That's the question that I hear over and over from everyone that I'm coaching. And I want to talk about how to, quote, learn from the burnout experience that I had. And if you watched my burnout videos or you've read the burnout book, you know how I feel about this. Burnout doesn't just happen because we work too hard. Expending energy pennies alone does not cause burnout to happen. There has to be an imbalance of expectation in terms of I expect that I'm going to get a certain level or have a certain number of sales or make a certain amount of money by working harder than I'm working right now. So there's an imbalance of expectations that often happens with burnout where either I am intentionally trying to work harder in order to be able to compensate for some perceived lack that I have, or everyone else is working harder than I am, so I'm trying to work even harder than that in order to continue to grow. Or again, because it costs more energy to do the same things than it used to. So those of us who are going through the pandemic experience and having a hard time, or just life in general makes it so that our energy penny exchange is off, then we start to burn out because we are expending more than we used to do the same amount of work, and we don't adjust to the energy penny exchange. So those are the two primary causes of burnout, either a gap between expectations and reality where I'm thinking that hard work is going to give me more reward and it doesn't, and that will cause burnout. Or again, the energy penny exchange changes where what used to be 1 penny now costs 10, but I have not changed my expectations yet. So in both cases, these are expectations issues when it comes to burnout. I shouldn't have to rest. I shouldn't have to stop. I shouldn't have to monitor what I'm doing. I shouldn't have to change the way I work. I shouldn't have to be wired like I'm wired. I should be able to do whatever I want. I should be able to expend however much energy I want to expend and not have to replenish. I shouldn't have to read. I shouldn't have to rest. Whatever it is, that expectation setting, the shoulds that we are telling ourselves are what causes burnout. So when people are coming to me for coaching and we're talking through their burnout or we're just trying to reset their expectations, I always have to ask when they say, I'm afraid to burn out again, I say, don't not work because of a fear of burnout. We do want, especially after we get, let's say like halfway out of the pit, like we built the ladder halfway out of the pit, we are ready to be able to start pushing ourselves a little bit more. We don't want to not push at that point. Not pushing will not help us to recover better. Like we want to not push at certain times, but that's more as we're coming out of burnout. We want to make sure to not push in those times. But once we get towards the top of the ladder, out of the pit, we should start pushing ourselves. And specifically, we want to return to realistic expectations. And nobody likes those two words together. No one does. Because we all want to be able to just have unrealistic expectations all the time. And Becca says, and I feel like I say this nonstop, you have to question the premise of your expectations. You have to question the premise of the shoulds every single time you hear yourself say it. I shouldn't have to rest. Why? Are you Superman? Are you a god? Right? Like there are very few reasons why you should never have to rest or pull back. And most of them lead to burnout. I mean, I'm just going to say it. Like, if you are not willing to take the time to feed your energy or replenish your energy pennies or whatever metaphor you use to think about it, then it is more likely that you are going to burn out again if you don't change your expectations. So when we look at, am I going to burn out again? My encouragement is don't not push yourself in terms of returning to some level of work, but we want to make sure that we've learned what we need to learn from the experience of burnout in terms of resetting our expectations. So what I can't continue to expect is that I never ever have to rest. That's not a realistic expectation. If I'm going to work hard, I need to rest hard. If I'm going to expend a lot of energy pennies, I need to refill the bank of energy pennies. If that is what I'm going to do, then I need to make sure that I'm compensating for that, because the burnout happens because we don't compensate for how quickly we're spending energy pennies. We don't ever stop working. We don't ever intentionally rest, those types of things. It's not the work itself. It's the lack of understanding of how expectations affect burnout. So the major question that we go through when we're doing coaching around burnout recovery is, did you change your expectations? That's almost the only question I care about, because most of the time when people ask me, like, should I start working hard again? Most of the time when they're ready to ask that question in an earnest way, not in a fearful way, but in an earnest way, I'm like, yep, it's time. You need to start resetting some expectations for yourself, but pushing yourself, right? But then if they haven't done the work to spank those expectations, then they're not ready to return no matter what, or they think they're ready to return, but they're just going to burn out again. So the key to avoiding burnout is changing those expectations. So let's talk a little bit about what that might look like. When you burn out, and it is always systemic, it's always a system of choices that you're making. It's never one choice. It's never one event, but often because there's a precipitating event, a lot of people are like, well, if it hadn't been for the pandemic, nope, you would have burned out anyway at some point, because you have an unrealistic expectation of what you can do versus what you need to do. So at some point you would have burned out. It just happened to happen because the pandemic was so extreme for a lot of us, right? So if we assume that there's an expectation that caused the burnout in some level, I need you to look backwards at what you were expecting of yourself that led you to the burnout. What did you feel was necessary in order for you to have success that led you to burnout? Were you expecting that you had to write too fast? Were you expecting you had to release too fast? Were you expecting that the only way to success was someone else's way? Were you expecting that you had to do it in a certain amount of time, or you would never have success? Were you expecting, did you have FOMO, right? The fear of missing out, which drives a lot of people's choices. Were you too connected? Were you having too high of an expectation of income? Did you have too high of an expectation of your releases? Are you not resetting your expectations? That's the primary question. If you haven't done this look back, I want you to do it now. Pause the video, go and look back and evaluate what the expectations were. What did you think should have happened? What did you feel you should have to do? A lot of us in this industry, especially if you're high achiever, high arranger, high focus, high discipline, a lot of purple dominant strength people believe that they have to do everything. So if I feel like I have to do it all myself, and at some point we'll talk about the organizational growth curve again, so that we can remind ourselves, if you do everything yourself, you are not building infrastructure under the success, and you will burn out eventually. It will just happen. Unless you keep your success capped, you will eventually burn out if you continue to try to do everything yourself. And I said this at the conference last week, and I got a lot of damn it, Becca signs, which, that's realistic. But I also want to acknowledge this will be hard for some of us to hear. If you are a very dominant purple strength or yellow strength person, and you have an assistant that you can't trust to hand stuff off to, you have the wrong assistant. You have hired and are utilizing the wrong person. Doesn't mean you can't still keep them, but it means that you have to find someone that you trust enough to offload things to. Because if part of your burnout trajectory was that you were trying to do everything yourself, but you don't change that expectation, then you're going to end up right back in burnout territory again at some point, because you haven't changed the I have to do everything myself expectation. And that can come with some essential pain sometimes. And again, I remind everybody, we're always here if you need help with coaching. We're happy to talk you through the essential pain of having to make those choices. And also, you will burn out again if you don't spank the expectation that you have to do everything yourself. The only way you can do everything yourself is if you limit your growth to a point where your organization always stays at a manageable for one person level. But every entrepreneur who has success, and all indies and all authors on some level are entrepreneurs, every entrepreneur who has success has to deal with this. Oh, the business started making a bunch of money and I started having a lot more expectations put on me. And if I don't hire the right people to support me, my business is going to collapse in on itself, because either I will burn out trying to do everything, which is what happens to most of us, or I will end up not being able to fulfill all of the duties that are required of someone who's running their own business. And then I will end up collapsing. So I need for you to hear me about some of you with your assistants. If you can't trust them, you've hired the wrong person, or you're expecting the wrong thing from the wrong person. And yes, if you are dominant in executing or influencing strengths, you're probably going to have to hire somebody that's way more expensive than you want to hire, because your expectation is unrealistic about what a person that does not have the capacity to execute at the level you need them to execute at is capable of. And I know that's harsh to say, and I know that there are benefits of other types of people, and everyone has value, but in order to help your organizational growth and to help you stay out of burnout, you really need to have the right people helping you if you want to have success. Again, like, that trajectory is going to require support. Even those of you Ranger achievers who are looking at me like, oh no, I can do it all myself. Please listen to me. If you actually grow at a very high level where you're getting a lot of success, you will not be able to do it all yourself. Period. It's probably not good for you to do it all yourself anyway, but there are so many people, and this is an amazing growth industry in the author space right now. People who are indie authors who also have project management background of some kind, who are stepping in to help people who are having a ton of success manage all of their projects, to take all of the necessary tasks off of their plate. And yeah, it's not cheap to hire a PM. Companies, it's not cheap to hire a PM. But if you need a PM, a project manager, that's the only thing that's going to solve your problem. You need to be able to hire someone who can handle the work that you're giving them. Okay, I'm going to stop, I promise. But I get so preachy about that, because so much of what happens in burnout is because we just are not getting the support that we need to handle the growth that we're seeing in our businesses. In terms of the other expectations we might have, a lot of the speed and release expectations are built on a faulty assumption that the only way to maintain top of mind in readers' mind is to release constantly. And that's an expectation that has been inculcated in us by the Amazon algorithm, which is not the boss of the industry. This is so important. The algorithm is important, but it is not the boss. So if it was the boss, then no one who released fewer than, I don't know, whatever it is, 17-day turnaround right now. So however many that is into 365, 100, let's just say something like that. I don't know. But anyone who released a book less than every 2 weeks would not be making any money. If the algorithm was actually the boss, the limiter, then no one would ever be able to make money not releasing 25, 30 books a year. That's just not the case. It is not the case. There are people who are releasing extremely often like that, who are making a lot of money, and excellent for them. Most of us are not wired that way. very, very few of us are wired that way. And when we are wired that way, we know we can do it and we're selling at it and it's fine. But when we aren't, this is the biggest cause of burnout that I see, is this expectation that we have to keep up with the algorithm. And it is such BS. It bothers me so much when people talk about it, like when experts talk about it as though that's the only way to make money. I feel like they just don't see the larger part of the industry if they think that. There are so many people who are making money writing few books a year that it's unfair of us to expect that if we only wrote more books a year, that we would somehow be making a whole ton of money. The problem is there are just as many people writing 10 plus, let's say, books per year who are not making money as there are people who are writing 10 and fewer books per year that are not making money. The percentages are the same, you guys. And I feel so frustrated by this sometimes because every time I hear talk about releasing and speed and la la la, and I want to say that is not always better. Faster is not always better. So what I'd rather have you do is take the number of books you can release per year and maybe try to increase it by one if possible. And some of you, that's even too much. Like for some of you, you are so overtaxed that you can't even increase it by one book per year, let alone multiple. And we need to really dial back on how we're expecting ourselves to do this because it doesn't actually produce the kind of success we think it does. Everyone has a speed that they work best at. And by best, I mean most aligned to their expectations and their quality capacity and things like that. Everyone has a speed they work best at. There are literally archetypes of this where it's like not everyone can write fast and well. Not everyone can write at the same level they're writing at now in terms of good quality and also faster than they are. For some of us, we've reached the peak of how fast we can write, and we need to focus more on finding the right readers in the marketplace rather than trying to write more product. Like more product on its own is not going to solve the problem. And I feel like this is the primary cause of this burnout epidemic that we're seeing, is this misunderstanding about what actually causes success in the author world, in the author industry. And it really bothers me. Again, I'm trying not to get preachy about this, but it really bothers me that we don't see enough examples because the people who write few books a year and make money are afraid that there's some weird outlier and that there is nothing that they can offer people other than just like, well, I'm a unicorn. You're not a unicorn. It's a pattern. It's an archetype. It actually makes... Yeah, I'm going to stop because I get really preachy, obviously, and I want to try to get through this as quickly as possible. So let's say we've identified the shoulds that we have. We've identified the expectations that are pushing us toward burnout. Now, what do we do? So that's step one, identify in terms of, have I learned my lesson from burnout? Am I going to burn out again? Identification is step one. Step two is spanking the expectations. You guys, I don't think it's possible for me to overstate how important it is that we don't just continue to believe that this pie in the sky thing is possible. And what I don't mean is don't believe you can be successful. That is not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is how you think you will be successful is probably wrong because it's based on faulty assumptions that we're being taught that are unintentionally only half the story. And so in a lot of ways, we all need to be able to accept the expectations that are realistic for us. And again, if you have competition, you can usually ignore me when I talk about this stuff, but also competition people burn out better, like just in terms of how they drive hard, expend hard, and then recover. They usually recover better. But anyway, step two is spank the expectations, find a more realistic expectation for yourself. And then the reality is some of us are marathon, like we are not sprinters. We are marathon runners in this industry, and we need to take an eye toward the long game and toward sustainability and stop trying to make all the money there is in the world. The gold rush is over. There is no more gold rush anymore. Now we are fully saturated. The industry is completely saturated in every corner. There is no more gold rush. And the good news about that there is no more gold rush is you don't have to play by gold rush rules anymore. 5 years ago, gold rush rules were everyone has to get in as quickly as possible and make all the money that there is to make because the bubble is going to burst at some point. The gold rush is over. But the good news is there's still a crap ton of money to be made. It's just we're now an established industry. So when you're an established industry, it changes how you have to run a business. A lot of businesses in the gold rush could pop up, make a crap ton of money, collapse, and then pop up again, make a crap ton of money, and then collapse. But when we're looking at established industries, that favors sustainable business models. And I wish that people understood the mechanics of business growth just a little bit better in terms of we are not in those rules anymore. This is not a rush anymore. We have to treat this like now I need to build a sustainable business, which is a different thing. We'll talk about that in a different video. But for right now, we need to know if we have learned the lesson. So identify, spank, talk back to. And by that, I mean, you need to QTP actively those expectations. You can't just keep holding them and assuming that they're true. And reality keeps punching you in the face and being like, that is not true. That's not true. And yet you are continuing to hold the expectation. We have to talk back to the expectations, question the premise, break the expectation. So the reason I use QTP specifically, and I don't think enough people understand this, the reason that I use QTP as a process is that when you laugh at it, like when we say, oh, I need to write 12 books a year, and Becca's like, but do you? With that little like laughter edge. When we laugh at the expectation, it breaks the stakes because we realize how ridiculous it is when we hold expectations that are not actually serving us. And as much as possible, we want to try to laugh at those expectations and at, oh, aren't we cute for thinking that that was the case? It's not the gold rush anymore. It's established industry. It's a marathon. We're building a base, all of those things, right? And then we want to continue to build and continue to build. And for some of us, the fact that it's not the gold rush anymore is a pain point because we were late in on the gold rush and we missed it. And now we feel like we've missed out on all the money. And on some level, we have missed out on the time when there was no competition. Like we definitely have missed out on that point. Everything is saturated. This happens in every entertainment industry when it gets disrupted. This always happens everywhere. So you just have to look at the established rules now and stop acting as though we are in gold rush time. We're not in gold rush time. So stop giving into FOMO, build a sustainable business from the ground up and stop burning out. Okay. So we spank the expectations and then we need to ask, like, this is the third step. What am I doing to change this expectation? So if I was previously subscribed to 7,000 newsletters and going to every single conference and every single workshop and watching every single podcast, trying to find every tactic I possibly can find to help me take advantage of this gold rush mentality or opportunity, then I need to look back at myself and say, is all of that still serving me, or is that causing me to have FOMO and to burn out? Is it possible that my best work right now is going to be curating what I listen to? For some of you, that may mean you don't listen to the QuitCast anymore, or you don't belong to our Patreon anymore. And every time we see people drop off, or we see people, the subscribes are going down for a minute or whatever, it's like, okay, this needs to happen, attrition, because it means that people are listening. It means that we are going around and we're unsubscribing and unfollowing, and we're stopping buying every new program, and we're stopping buying, even from us, right? Like on some level, if we're going to hit that established industry territory, we have to find a way to exist with sanity. We can't continue to exist in FOMO, or we're going to just keep burning out for forever. So that third part, have I learned my lesson, is so important. Did I change stuff behind me? Because if I didn't change anything, if I'm still keeping all the same systems, all the same expectations, going to 75 workshops or classes or conferences, listening to 75 podcasts, subscribing to 75 newsletters, I am part of the problem in terms of like, I am making myself burn out again. And I just want us to question the premise of whether this is possible or not. I know that as we establish the industry, there's a good chance that we'll lose followers, we'll lose subscribers, we'll lose people in our classes, because the established industry needs to not have that sense of, I have to take every single new thing, I have to participate in every single new thing, or I'm never going to make money. That is old gold rush thinking. We have got to realign ourselves to the new normal in the industry, the established industry thinking that has both a traditionally published industry and an independently published industry that are thriving, that are absolutely viable, and that are still open. Because both of those industries are still open. And this is the key. Yes, we missed the gold rush. Yes, you can't just throw a book up on Amazon anymore and make $1 billion. You have to spend money to advertise. You have to have an organization. You have to think about proliferating your materials. You have to do research and development. Like, that is what established industries look like. You now study market trends. You now study how people are creating products for the market. But that also means that it's going to be less and less likely for us to come in and just make wild money. And that is a pain point for some of us. It's going to be more and more likely that you have to be really hitting the nail on the head market-wise right now to be able to take off. It is very unlikely that that will change. And yes, there's some variance with TikTok because TikTok is so new. So there is some like takeoff happening in TikTok. But again, it's so unpredictable. And usually what's happening when the people take off is they're taking off because somebody discovered their books. Like that, what they're doing is good. It's meeting a market need. And so I would say the same rules apply. It still has to meet the market need if it's going to take off at this point, because now it's saturated. There's too much competition. They don't have to worry about what they're going to read next. Now they're worried about overload of potential opportunities. And that level of saturation in a marketplace is always a dangerous time to be playing by gold rush rules, because you're just going to burn yourself out. So again, my hope is, did we learn? That's the whole goal here. Because if we are going through burnout and not learning, we are going to end up there again. But in terms of those of you who've been asking, like, is it okay for me to start working hard again? Yeah. Like usually by the time you're ready to ask that question, you're ready to work hard again. But you're not ready to return to the place that was causing burnout. So we can't just go back into the same system and expect that it's going to be fine. We have to learn our lesson from that system. We have to. I know this was painful for some of us to listen to, and I apologize for the pain, because I never like to make people feel like what they're doing is wrong. But some of us really need that moment of clarity about, have I really spanked the expectations that I had that got me here? Did I actually learn my lesson? Because if I didn't, then I'm going to be right back here learning it again. And the universe will literally provide me another opportunity to learn it, to see if I've learned it. And if I haven't, then I'll get another chance to learn it again. And I would really prefer to not have any of us caught in that place, because that is a painful place to be in, where you're burning out again and again and again and again. So here's my hope. If you are still in the middle of the pit and you need support, come and find us. We have micro coaching and coaching available on our Patreon. We have individual coaching one-off spots if you would like. We still have, Market Better Faster, Write Better Faster, Strengths for Writers. All of those things are still available. But primarily, I want to say to you, if you have gone through burnout and you haven't yet asked those questions, what did I learn? What expectations was I holding, right? Like, what was I expecting? So step one, what was I expecting? What expectations was I holding that I need to spank? And then I spanked them, right? That's step two. And then What did I learn? What did I change as a result of this? Because I have to be able to change. And yes, this means some of us are going to have to get a part-time job. This means some of us are going to have to get a full-time job. This means some of us are going to have to do something other than writing to support ourselves, because we need the return to sanity and stability in order to be able to produce creatively. And that is pain. And I feel that I've been there. I am that person, right? I know none of us want to hear that, but also it does not equate to failure if you do that. All it equates to is timing. This was not the right time. There are so many times ahead of you that might still be the right time, but I don't want to see you continue to burn yourself out because you have this unrealistic expectation that if I don't do it now, I'm never going to be able to do it. Not true anymore. Gold rush is over. We're now in established time. We have got to start building sustainable businesses. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for watching the QuitCast. Those of you who have been with us for the now 3.5, almost, well, soon it'll be 4 years, but the 4th season, those of you who've been with us in all 4 seasons, I'm so grateful that you're still here and watching the videos. I hope we've been helpful. Please do reach out to us, betterfasteracademy.com, if you have any questions or need any help. You can ask questions in the chat as well, obviously. And then also, if you need to be part of the community because you really need the ongoing support because you're going to build a sustainable business, come to our Patreon, patreon.com/BeccaSime. We are constantly talking about this on the Patreon. We will be constantly talking about it for a long time. And here's hoping that the next topical calls that we do will be on building a sustainable business. Here's hoping on the Patreon. Here's hoping that that will be as helpful as I think it will be. Because as we start to come out of burnout, those are the places that we need the most help, is how do we reset our expectations? And if you have questions, come to the Patreon, join the insiders level or above, and we'll talk about those in our topical calls in August. All right, I am headed to Australia next month. I will be actually in Australia for the Romance Writers of Australia conference. And I hope if any of you are watching and you are going to be there, that you will come and find me and say hi. I always like to meet the QuitCast people. And if any of you are on the Patreon and you want to come and find me and say hi, please do. I cannot wait. I am taking off here very soon. And I am very excited to land and get my body clock reset so that I can come to Frio and be part of the conference. So please come find me. All right. Thanks, everyone. We will see you on the next QuitCast. Bye, everybody.